Hi all. So today let's look at the OWASP top 10 mobile risks. So the OWASP Pro 2024 is already in the market. So if you can see this comparison, so now in proper, let's look at this comparison between 2016 and 2024. So the first two, that is improper credential usage and inadequate supply chain security. So this is newly introduced in this 2024. And in the third one, that is insecure authentication and authorization. So these two are being merged from the 2016 M4 and M6. Now again insecure communication. So this is moved to M5 from M3. So now the inadequate privacy control is the new one, and insufficient binary protections. This is the merged of code tampering and reverse engineering. And then next is security misconfiguration. So this is like an rewarding, as you can see here, extraneous functionality. So security misconfiguration is at M8. Then insecure data storage is moved down to M9 from M2, and then insufficient cryptography is moved to M10 from M5. So this is the latest 2024 list that we will be checking in our further sessions. So let's look at the risks one by one.
So let's discuss about the insecure data storage, which is in the OWASP top 10 mobile security risk list. So this is in the list. This is because the hackers generally prefer having access to sensitive data that is not being guarded by appropriate firewalls. So this is where the proper data encryption method serves their purpose, like preventing unwanted intrusions into the sensitive databases. Now, like insecure data storage is essentially the data packets or the data that is stored without the added protection of encryption or any other firewalls. So this can like we can also refer to like unintentional data leaks caused by improper application design. So the data that can be accessed maliciously in two ways when it comes to mobile application. One is if the threat agent has access to the physical device itself, and another way is of using malware to access the sensitive data. Now there are several ways to avoid this. You can take care of this by securely developing the application and always thinking that the device or the malware can access the systems remotely. Now there are several risk factors when it comes to insecure data storage. Depends on three things, namely the situation, the type of data, and the level of security of the data storage. So if, for example, someone has physical access to your mobile device, there are plenty of free tools with the help of which they can access all your sensitive data. So the risk increases significantly if sensitive data is unencrypted, or poor encryption technique is used, or it is stored in the shared location, or like the components or the frameworks libraries has some certain vulnerabilities that are not addressed. So OWASP has determined that the most common places that the data is stored insecurely are like SQLite databases, log, list file, XML data store, manifest files, binary data, cookie stores, as well as SD cards. Obviously, the data leaks are unintentional. However, there may be a lot of processes that happen in the background that the developer is not aware of. Instances such as how the operating system catches data, log information, catches keystrokes. These all apply to the development framework as well. That's why I have been repeatedly saying that a developer should be aware and to ensure that better security is provided in the mobile application. So it is always a good idea to always validate the mobile application, the operating system, the frameworks, the platforms to better understand where the vulnerabilities can lie. So now there are few things that we should consider, uh, like certain few things we should consider, like not leaving the sensitive data unencrypted, like not storing sensitive data on the client side or in the removable SD cards. When it comes to Android specific best practices, so we should always encrypt the local storage using the method set storage encryption. Also, in the event the data is stored on an SD card, you can increase the level of security via the zavax.crypto library. And also, we can set the set preferences properties. Uh, you should not always share set it to mode world readable unless it is explicitly required, because the data that is being shared between the applications, we should consider what are the data that is being shared, whether it is a data that can be uh, that is enough or unnecessary, or uh, extra information should not be shared between the apps. Also, the sensitive information restriction should be applied. Always, again, we should not rely on hard-coded encryption and decryption keys when storing sensitive data. Hard-coded keys are ready to retrieve if the threat agents try to reverse engineer the code using a decompiler. So data leaks can have a significant consequences. So you should always avoid it by always adhering to the industry specific best practices when it comes to storing and handling the sensitive data in the mobile application. Next, we will see how there is an insecure data storage going on by considering a vulnerable application, Diva beta application that I have shown you the installation in my previous videos. Let's jump on it. And now coming back to our setup. Uh, so this is the Diva applications that we have installed, and let me start this application. So as you can see, this is application provides 4 parts of insecure data storage. So we will be checking on this. And so before I start, so if you can select insecure data storage. So here it is. The objective is to find out how the credentials are being stored and the vulnerable code. Okay. Oh, insecure data storage is the result of storing confidential information insecurely on the system, that is poor encryption, plain text, access control issues, etc. Okay, the hint already says that the data that is being stored in the application is not getting stored securely. So there is some security issues on this application for this particular data storage. So now, as in the third-party service username, so we'll type anything, service password, save. Okay, so it says third-party credentials saved successfully. So this data is getting stored in the storage. So we have to see the how it is getting stored and all. So for that, let me go to the JADX and see the coding for this application. We'll come to know how this is getting uh, stored in the storage. So let me open ZX. So in our previous videos, we have seen how to use ZX and to view the source code. So here I'm using the same ZX. Now I will be uh, taking the files from my desktop. I'll open the file. So probably Diva beta. So go to home, desktop, APK, and the Diva file, Diva APK file. Let me have a check. Desktop APK, Diva beta.apk. So here I'll go to Diva beta and open. Okay, now the application is successfully loaded in the ZX. So considering the insecure data storage part 1, so we'll look into the package. So this is the application code. So we are looking for insecure data storage 1 activity. So here if we look at, we should understand like how the data is getting stored. This is the activity. Now the save credentials, prefer get default share preferences. So here if you see, the data are being stored in the shared preferences. Okay, so it is getting things from shared preferences, and and then okay, so this is the code. So it is username and password it is taking, and it is storing it in the shared preferences. Okay, now what we have to do is, now we understood that the application is storing the data in the shared preferences. Now what we will do is we will go to the adb shell now. Okay, so now I've connected to my virtual device. As you can see, adb connect worked, and let me go to the shell, adb shell. After going to the more than one, okay, devices. So now let me 168.0.107. So there are a number of devices, so it is uh, not getting connected. I'm trying to get into the shell of my Android virtual device. So here I am. Now what I have to do is I have to go to the particular directory. So let me go to the cd data and then the package name. So as we know, the package name is zakar.asim.diva. Now I'll do ls. So as you can see here, there are multiple ways files or the data can be stored. That is shared preferences, databases, even the cache where we can see the data. So now, as we saw the ZX, we saw here that the application is storing the data on the shared preferences where. So now we'll see. Okay, now we'll see the shared preferences. So let me go into shared preferences, do a ls. So this is the XML file. So now doing a cat on the XML. Here you see the data that is being uh, stored in the plain text that I have passed. Now what I'll do is I'll just try to store another data credentials, and let's say it's a third party service username. I'll tell, okay, my username is ss3124r, and what would be the password? Like suppose the password is readme at 123. The user might think, okay, my user id and password is safe in the application, but when we come to shared preferences and we check, the data is stored in a clear text. So any user that gets access to the device can probably maliciously look into these areas and can read the username and password. You see here the username is ss3124r and the password is readme at 123 that we have passed in our application. This is one way of checking the shared preferences. So the data is stored in a clear text. Now let's look into the another storage. Let's look into the data storage part 2, and going back to the ZX, we will see that data storage part 2, how it is getting stored. Okay, so here you see this is getting stored in a database. So here it is telling to create a database IDS2, where it is creating a table for us, the application, and then it is saving the credentials in the database. So now since these are the DB files, what we will do is we will go to the databases folder. So this is the shared preferences. I'll just move back to one directory. I'll do ls-la. So this is, as you can see, there is a databases directory. I'll just get into it, and as you can see, there is database files. One is IDS2 and one is Diva nodes. So in order to read this database files, you need SQLite. So if you have a SQLite CLI, you can also run the commands of the SQLite. If you have the GUI version, you can also see that files, read the files. So now since I do not have the particular SQLite, let me install it. So now what I'll do is I'll light DB browser. So DB browser for SQLite. Now I'll install this. Go to the downloads. Standard installer. Now let's open another command prompt, and then we will be getting all the database files from our virtual device to a local system where we can see the databases from the SQLite. So in my desktop, let me create a folder. Yeah, let me create a folder here, new folder called database. Let me keep it here. Okay, so this is my database here. So let me open it and try to open the command prompt here. What I have to do is I have to pull the file. So what I'll do is adb. Let me check the devices. So there are two devices. Now I'll have to pull from a particular device. So I'll just specify the device. Otherwise, you can directly run the command adb pull. So 0.107 colon 5555. So adb pull databases. So in our command prompt, another command prompt, we saw that the databases are present in this particular location. So I'll copy this and then I'll paste this and I will enter it. So as you can see, 4 files pulled. So now let us go back to our database. So here it is the databases, and you can see that the folder file database files appearing here. So now let's go to the DB browser and open these files. Okay, so now the DB browser for SQLite is up. Now what we have to do is we have to open a database, right? So in that case, what we will do, either we can go and open the database in the similar fashion. So it is in my desktop database. So here I have actually pulled the wrong database. Let me close it. Let me go back to the database folder and let me take this particular IDS2. I can also drag and drop here. So what I'll do is I'll just drag and drop this particular file, and you can see the particular user password, this particular database structure is appearing. Now what I'll do is I can go for browse data, then I can see my user. Now you see, we whatever the credentials we passed is now appearing here. So again, this is on the clear text and in the databases. So this is also not safe, right? So that clear text passwords and user credentials are available in the database, so a malicious person can view this information. So this is one way of checking the databases. And now moving on to the next one, that is let's go back to the third, insecure data storage. So now we will check the third data storage activity. So in the uh, part 3 also tells about the same information. Find out where and how the credentials are being stored and the vulnerable code. Confidential information insecurely on the system. Okay. Now let's check out the code here. Third storage activity, insecure data storage 3. So here save credentials. Okay, the text user password. So here it is storing the text file. Okay, so probably a file is being getting created, and in the file the informations are being collected. So probably as per the understanding, so it is creating a file and then storing uh, the values. Okay, like the third party credentials saved successfully in the file. So basically you should have a basic understanding of the code in order to collect the information, the methods that are being called or file, or what is the activity that the application is trying to perform. So basic understanding is required, uh, probably to check on these codes. Now as we understood that there is a file is getting being created, so let's try to save some data, and we'll see what is the outcome. So here let me any third party service name, let me give password, and the password is pwd123, and save it. So now the third party credentials are saved successfully. So now let's see what it is being stored. We'll go back to the command prompt here. So I'm out of my virtual box. So let me connect to my Android device 192.168.0.107 shell. So I got the shell. Sorry. Now what I'll do is I'll just uh, okay. Let me clear the screen. Okay. Now what I'll do is I'll just again go back to the same directory cd data zakar .asim.diva package. You can do a ls. Now here okay, now here what you are seeing, the new thing is that there is a temp file came up. At what time? It is very recent time. So which means now that the data is getting stored here in this particular temp file. So since this is a file, what I'll do is I'll do a cat read the file. So now as you can see, the information password pwd123 that I have passed. So this is actually getting stored in the temp file. So nice. So in the first part we saw that the application is storing the information in the shared preferences. Next, in the part 2 we saw that in the database it is getting stored. We read the files in the data browser. We pulled the databases and we stored it externally, and then we read it from the SQLite browser, which was in clear text. And the third part that we saw just now is getting a file created called TMP. This is a TMP file getting created with the information being stored here. Now let's move on to the fourth and the final one. Let me go back. Okay, so fourth one, again it's the same information, like same structure, same objective. Okay, so now let's look at the activity. Let's go to the ZX, what it says in the fourth activity. Okay, so fourth activity says that create a bundle, okay, save credentials, okay, user, okay, file SDIR, okay, it is getting stored in a file. Okay, so see the method like get external storage directory. So which means like it is to get the informations are getting stored in an external storage, right? So okay, so file writer, it is writing a file. Okay, so this is now we understood that the user information are getting stored in a external file. Now let's look at it. Let's look the activity for. So here there is one interesting thing to notice, because the file is getting written here. As you can see, the file information is getting stored in the absolute path, and the absolute path is slash dot uinfo.txt. So this is the actual file that is getting stored in the external storage. So this is the external storage, this file you can see. But now first thing what we have to do is we have generally we go back, we have to check the permission of our application. So we'll go to our application here. We'll check for the, not here. We'll just pull out the app info, long press, and the application will give the app info uh, pop-up. And then there, once we click on the app information, here we'll see the permissions. So it says no permissions granted. So we have not given any permission yet. What we will do is, so as you can see, files and media not allowed. So what we will do is, we'll allow the permissions of files and media so that we can write in our external storage. Okay, so we'll grant all the permissions. Allow the app to read contents of your shared storage. Okay. Modify the delete. Okay. Read locations from your media. Okay. A full network access also we can give, no problem. But anyways, fine. Now click on files and media. Give allow management of all files. So now we, as you can see, we have given full permissions to our files and media. So what we will do is, we will go back to our application. And we will place some data. So we will username, third-party service username is we can give fourth service, and password we can give as PASSWD, and let's save it. So we should see this information in our external storage now. What I'll do next is, I'll go to my machine here. So now, uh, anyways, we will come out of this because this is on the external storage. So I'll just move back to the directory. Now I am at the main directory. So now here you can see all the all the information that is being written to the external storage should be in the mnt directory, right? But there's also, you can also see that sd card storage self primary. So this sd card has a path storage self primary, and this storage is inside the mnt. So you can do a cd sd card. You can also do cd sd card, and then I'll do a ls as ls here. Let me long list, yeah. So as you can see, alarms, Android audiobooks, DCIM, this all will be available in the SD card. Let me go to the SD card. So now as you can see, we'll go to here. Okay. Now same structure, alarms, Android audiobooks, DCIM, whatever the structure is, you can see the structure here. But however, as per the activity, it says the information is getting stored in /uinfo.txt. This is the absolute path. And dot means the hidden files. Probably the file is hidden. So what we will do is, we will do ls-a to list out the hidden files. So uh, now you can see the file here. Okay, .uinfo.txt. Let's do a cat .uinfo.txt. Now you see fourth service and our the password. So these credentials are getting stored again in the text format, which is in a file in the external storage, and that in a non-encrypted, that is in a clear text. So this is a vulnerability. So you, first of all, we should not allow the applications to store any credential in the external storage. As well, we should not allow the application or recommend the application team to not store it in the clear text. So this is again on the fourth part of our insecure data storage activity. Important thing to note here, that this file is at the external storage. So probably all the applications can able to edit it, modify it, read it. So it is always advisable not to store the information in the external storage, because there will be a communication between applications to application. Application can read external storage, write external storage. So restrict applications not to write any stuffs on the external storage. So this is all from the insecure data storage, and thank you for this one. We'll connect again on the next vulnerability in the OWASP top 10. Thank you.